Okay.
First time all year, right? At the end, Steve.
We do have a quorum.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Oregon Village Board. It's Monday, December 17, 2018 at 5 p.m. I will call the meeting to order and request roll call, please.
Glish,
Here.
Jacobson, Carpenter,
Here.
Bollig,
Here.
Staten,
Here.
Boudreaux,
It's a hiccup.
Peterson,
Here.
Thank you. So we're going to move down to item 3C, and this is Ruckert and Mielke's presentation of the 2018 Investment in Infrastructure Achievement Award to the Village of Oregon and possible board action regarding designation of the $1,000 monetary award to Oregon Youth Center. So we'll start with that motion. Someone please make that to designate the Youth Center to receive the $1,000.
I'll move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So that motion is before us. So Ruckert and Mielke, if you'd like to come forward. Welcome to both of you.
Good evening. My name is Stan Sugden. I'm the president of Ruckert Mielke. We are a 105-person employee-owned engineering firm with 5 offices located throughout Wisconsin. So we have an office in Waukesha, Kenosha, Madison, in Milwaukee, and also the Fox Valley. I think some of the work that we've done throughout the Village of Oregon has been through our office in Madison, and so we're going to speak a little bit about that. What I wanted to do quickly is just share with you the reason for our award and how it came about. So in the past, we used to have a gathering in our office and invite all of our clients to come to our office and spend time with us and get to know them. While it was great to do that, as we've expanded throughout the state, it's become more difficult to do that, and we can't always get together and visit all of the communities and get together with all of our clients. So what we've chosen to do is to take that money and we redirected it outwardly towards the communities that we work in, and to find a worthy charity within their community that would be deserving. So each year we find those clients that we want to designate an award to. We ask you what is the entity that you'd like to receive it, and then we come and present it. So for me, I've been going to a lot of meetings at a lot of communities for many years, so it's nice to come in. Usually I'm welcomed pretty well when I show up with these checks, so not always in my career has it always been a welcoming meeting, so we're happy to be here. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn it over to Jason Leith. I thought I'd let him speak a little bit about some of the projects that we've done throughout the village, and after that we'll present the check to the Oregon Youth Center.
Good. Thank you, Stan. Welcome, Jason.
Yeah, welcome. And obviously you guys have seen me around here before, so I'm not a new face for you. But we do appreciate all the work that the village has been doing, not just with Ruckert Mielke, but we recognize that you guys invested a lot of time and effort into improving your community. And that could be through projects that we've done, such as we did Elm Street in Maine. We just finished the Perry Parkway Connection project. We've done several studies looking for planning. And those are all kind of the basic stepping stones for you guys to make future improvements in your community. And you know, I can only reiterate how many projects that you guys have with developments going on right now, and the growth in your community is pretty outstanding. And I know you guys have done just kind of wrapped up a lot of the capital planning and the budgeting going forward. And the library is on there, and there's just a lot of good projects for your communities. So again, we recognize the communities that we work in, but we also like to recognize the ones that we see being very proactive, and just make sure that everybody in the community is aware of this too. So a nice award for you, a nice donation to the nonprofit organization. So with that, the award reads, awarded to the Village of Oregon, Investment in Infrastructure. Congratulations on a truly extraordinary achievement. Your accomplishments have set an inspiring example for neighboring communities, and presented by Ruckert Mielke 2018. So again, we hope you receive this and you're proud of your achievements, and we'd just like to say thank you for everything you've involved us in.
Okay, so Diane, you want to come up to the front here and bring your students with you if you'd like to, you bet. And then Alex can get a picture. I think he's back there someplace. Why don't you stand at Diane for a picture? You guys stay right up here with her. If you turn and face that way to the observer reporter, please.
Diane, on behalf of Rupert Milky, I want to present this check to you on behalf of the Village of Oregon.
Thank you.
Very well. You're welcome. Thank you.
Sure, you want to take one back to the office?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right.
Hey.
You bet. Can you set it right in front here and it'll pick up on the camera once in a while? Thanks, Diane. So before we go on, I would like to, we had some comments from Jason at what Rupert Milky has done here, and I think it's fair to say that we all think they've done a really good job for us, and we appreciate that. So it's been a good relationship both ways. And thanks to Diane for her work at the Youth Center. She's been an anchor there for a long time, does a great job. So if you hold that together, we appreciate it. Okay, so we need to vote on that motion to accept that. We better vote for it now. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That was good.
We got the check.
Okay, so where do you want me to go here, Mike, until,
Phil matches up. Dude, well, I think we could start with the library.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm pretty
so
comfortable with that.
item 3 is public appearances. Item A, new library update. Library Board President Jenny Nelson, Library Director Jennifer Way will begin that with review of the capital campaign proposal and letter of agreement with Baker Street Consulting Group for the library fundraising campaign.
Good evening. We just want to say thank you for giving this opportunity to update you on our project. We have a couple of exciting things that we hope will help move our project forward in the new year. The first is that the library board voted to approve engaging the services of Baker Street Consulting to help with our campaign planning moving forward. The agreement is in your packet. It was reviewed by Attorney Dregney, and all of his recommendations were incorporated into the final contract. A couple of things I'll point out is that the contract is based on their services for the full 18 months, but there is a cancellation agreement which would allow us to cancel their services at any point. In my last experience, we had a similar contract, only it was for a shorter term, and so we actually only had the services of the consultant for part of the campaign. So I just want to point that option out. I think it's important for us moving forward. The library board approach is that we basically want to do everything we can to make this campaign as successful as possible, and so we feel it's really important to have that expertise to help us get organized and do the best job that we can do. Kind of like you'd hire a financial advisor to help you invest money or an attorney to help you with a legal issue. Baker Street has done over 100 capital campaigns, so they have a good track record and demonstrated success in doing this, and we hope they'll continue that success with us. I also reached out to the Stoughton Hospital Foundation. That's a local foundation in the area that recently did a capital campaign of about 2.4 million, they said. And they said they had a campaign consultant, and they said it was absolutely critical to their campaign, and that they would not have reached their goal without it. So that's an area campaign with some of our community members helping out that really said that was really a critical piece of their success. I will give Jenny a chance to share anything from the library board perspective on that.
Not sure this is on. Hello? Okay. So I guess the one thing we do want to point out is this isn't being funded by any of the village taxpayer money. So it's a fund that we had set aside, some previous savings, some other things, and then it'll be part of the campaign itself will help pay for it as that way. So we just wanted to make sure that you guys know that it's not coming from taxpayer money.
Are there any questions? Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'll move on to the second point.
Questions, anyone? Okay, so the second point is the architectural firms for the January 8, 2019 interviews.
And we were really fortunate to get 10 proposals for our architectural services. With the exception of one that costs significantly more than the rest, we had a great pool of architect firms to choose from. All of the library board members were part of the review process of the proposals that we received, and they narrowed it down to 4 firms that they'll be interviewing in January on the 8th of January. So we have those scheduled. The firms that we have are Engberg Anderson, Dimension 4 out of Madison, OPN Architects, and Plunkett Rasich Architects. And all of them have significant library experience and significant experience on municipal projects, which we think is really important working on a project like ours will be. According to the MOU, the contract with whichever firm is selected will be approved by both the village board and the library board, so we'll all want to be on the same page before that moves forward. Their proposal did include the costs that their services would provide, so that cost is already known. Once the library board selects a firm in January, we'll make sure Mike and all of you get a copy of the proposal for the recommended firm. Are there any questions on our process? But the time frame for each firm was a little bit different. They each kind of have their own approach to doing a project like ours, but it ranging from 3 months from date of hire to a little bit longer. I think the longest would have us kind of wrapping up with this piece in June. So early next year before summer, we'd have something that would really shape our project, get everybody excited about it, see what could be included, what we might want to change, just really to get community input, a detailed budget, a better timeline, so really everything we need to kind of get our project moving forward.
Are there questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Jennifer,
Yes.
moving forward, since this is going to cost $10,000 a month from the consultant and their fundraising efforts, can we have I would like a monthly report. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. Not necessarily in person, but you could forward it to Mike.
So you just kind of want to know a monthly report of like funds raised or activities that have taken place, or what would you appreciate?
Anything that you feel is noteworthy.
Okay.
And of course, funds raised at that
Yep.
point. But
Be happy to provide that.
thank you.
Anything else?
You want to mention how this is being paid for, the services?
The architectural services, that piece would be paid for out of the impact fees. That's the impact fees qualify to be put towards architectural fees. So that's what we'll use those for.
Thank you.
I see more and more evidence as time goes on that you're having done this in Sauk Prairie as a benefit to us here, so we've received that.
Huge benefit to all of us.
Yeah. And I look at this, and there's an awful lot of work that is done as this goes forward, but there seems a lot of energy in yourself as director, your staff, and the library board to really dig in and do this. And I have a sense that excitement is building in the community as this moves forward. So
I'd say our
Thank
staff,
you.
our library board, everybody, the community is really excited about it.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that continues as we move forward.
yeah, I think it will.
And I think the good thing is with all the architects, the biggest thing was community involvement and making sure that different people are heard. So we want to make sure that was part of the proposal, is how they engage people, how they engage the community, the village, lots of different stakeholders. So we want to make sure everybody is listened to.
Yeah,
The
good
other-
for you. That is a very important.
The other two pieces where that comes in is if we have to prioritize what goes in, then we'll make sure we have those voices heard as we make those decisions. And then also just planning for the future, so that if we want to make sure whatever we build now is something that can accommodate the community into the future, that it's expandable, and that that it makes sense moving forward in 20, 30 years from now. So that's important too.
Great. Any questions or comments?
I'll just make a quick comment. I was very impressed with the consultant's list of roles and responsibilities. I mean, it's a whole page, single space, and I'll admit when I first glanced at the cost, I thought, wow. But then when I did the numbers and realized it was 4% of the total raised, and then saw what they were going to do for that money, it was like, I'm okay.
Thank you for that, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a good observation, Jerry.
Yeah.
It is a long list and a lot of great services that we're getting, so that's good. Okay, then the last thing was Library Buzz newsletter from January, February 2019.
And that's just an informational piece, just to share some of the events that are going on in the library.
Yeah. And I'd say that's well done too. It draws one in to read it, so.
Yeah. Kelly Allen puts that together for us, so that's
Okay.
first.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we can start with the main tab.
Yeah.
If we hit a bump in the road, we can wait. Yeah.
Okay, item B is discussion with ACES Main Tap LLC regarding failed compliance checks, second offense in rolling 12 months, and 4 times the last 2 years and possible board action. So representatives can come forward, please, and feel free to slide another chair up so you all have a spot. So our agenda has a number of points of information. I won't go through all those, but they're in our packet, and for people watching on TV, you can go to those and look if you'd like to. So, do you want to start out, Chief Ewell, with
Yeah,
your
I can.
perspective, please?
We conducted the compliance checks as we normally do, per the discretion of the village board. In this particular circumstance, the underage person went up and purchased alcohol without being identified. So I don't, again, we try not to trick anyone. We present someone with who's underage, and if they ask for an ID, that's clearly their ID. It shows that they're under 21. And so in this case, it wasn't done, unfortunately. So since this has been a problem over the last several years, it's my obligation to bring it before the board.
So, what do you have to say for yourselves in your business?
First and foremost, my name is Bridget. These are my sisters, Ashley, Katie. And we are new at this. As I'm sure some of you know, our father passed away in July, so.
We're very sorry for that.
Yes, I appreciate that, thank you. We're still learning, so we unfortunately took action. We discussed this with the employee as well. Is there anything more we can do? I guess that's a good question for us to start with, unless you guys have anything else.
I mean, we're, trying to jump in and take over where he left off. One thing that we're trying to do more of is communicating. So we've been trying to do monthly and bi-monthly, staff meetings with them. And so one thing, we understand the severity of this, absolutely. And coming in, we didn't know about what happened previously or that it was a problem, but it needs to be dealt with. So we've talked with this employee personally, and given her, letting her know that this is not something that we're gonna, be okay with as well. It's also something that we want to bring up at our next staff meeting with the whole staff, that this has been brought to our attention, and it's a problem, and we need to make sure that we're thoroughly checking IDs, and that this isn't something that's going to continue. We, yes, agree that it can't continue, right?
And we also offer a liaison with our department that can assist you guys, any kind of training that you guys need. We're willing to offer that and make sure that you guys are giving your employees the best information that you can. So please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, we can provide that for them as well at our next meeting. That would be great as well.
Yeah, I'd encourage you to work with Chief Ewell and his liaison to help with that.
Yeah. Great idea. We'd be on board for that.
Okay. Any other comments you'd like to make?
I don't think so.
So, as noted in the agenda, this has been pretty frequent at the establishment. Now there's a change of ownership, and it's a chance to look at how to do this more effectively.
Right.
Some places in town are carding everyone, and they're blaming me and the village for that. That is not our recommendation. It's fine if they do. I have no problem with that. Pick and Save grocery stores card everyone. If I walk in, we have Kaiswa pack. If I walk in and to the liquor part and buy a 6-pack of beer, they card me. Obviously, I'm a bit over 21. A long ways over 21, actually. But that doesn't offend me or bother me, because it doesn't take long to pull out a wallet. You got to pay for the alcohol anyhow. I would encourage you to put up signs that say, "We will card anyone who appears to be under age 35." Whether you do not is up to you, but that warns people right away. And I would encourage you to stress, without a doubt, that if they look under 35, everybody's carded. Saying we're too busy or whatever is not.
Acceptable.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. Slow down a bit then if that's the case. We hope you're really busy, but don't be too busy to check IDs. That keeps you from coming here.
Absolutely.
We would prefer that you not be back.
Yeah, we agree. We agree.
Get you on TV and not for a good reason.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. So other questions or comments?
I'd just say, Steve, I think Bill's does the same thing. Everybody gets carded.
Yeah.
At Bill's.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's certainly fine to do that.
yeah.
Right.
I don't think it's necessary. That's your choice. But at least under 35, you should be catching people who aren't 21 yet. And like Chief said, the person that comes in is a person who's under 21 with a legal, legitimate ID that clearly states what their age is. But if you don't look at it, you don't know.
Exactly.
And it does not take very long to do it. So
Absolutely.
We'd encourage you to start looking.
Agreed. Thank you.
Yeah.
So can I ask, when you have new employees, is it part of their training, this?
We haven't had a new
Okay.
employee yet.
Yeah, but that's something we're gonna do is.
I think that would be a
Training,
really,
training,
yeah,
yes.
really good thing to do.
In the onboard packet or something like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So that every new employee receives the same sort of guidelines, absolutely.
And I think it's good, you said your staff meetings to just remind everybody that they should be checking, I think is a good idea.
Application
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, in the application process, there is a requirement that you submit to us what your plan is to work with employees to deal with checking IDs and so on. So you may find that in a file someplace. If not, give Candy Jones here at the Village Hall a call, and she will help you with how to pull that together, and then work with Chief Ewell as a liaison and go from there.
So we'll need to see the policy on what you guys plan on doing. I don't know if you guys have had one in the past. I'm sure you have. You might want to find that and do some revisions on that. And we'll help you with that if you need to.
Sure. That's half the battle is finding it.
Okay.
We'll definitely reach out with or without finding it to
Okay.
get some information. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else here?
I just want to say thank you for coming tonight. I know it's not always the easiest thing to do, but I think our intention is to work with you all to find a resolution to this. And I like that you've not only spoken to that particular employee, but are planning on including it into your employee meetings. So I think that's a great start to changing things, and I'm glad to hear it.
Thank you.
And we have this opportunity to say hi and
introduce ourselves as well and work together too. So
Yeah.
we appreciate
Very
it as
good.
well.
Yeah, and I agree with what Jenna said. She stated that very well. And certainly our condolences on your father, and we wish you well in the business. And I appreciate the way you've presented what you've had to say tonight. You've done that well, and that's good. It's not been defensive or disrespectful. It's been the way it should be in working together. We appreciate that. So,
It's good to hear. Thank you guys so much.
yeah,
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
So Steve, I think that maybe before we leave this agenda item, we should maybe ask Matt to talk about 3B5, which is, it's his new memo. It's right here, Steve. Talk about this. It's on the first page. It's the memo in the packet. It's a
I got
supplement.
you, yeah.
Sorry, it's a supplement to what he had
Yeah.
Matt prepared before.
Okay. So 3B5 is December 11, 2018 memorandum from the village attorney regarding alcohol enforcement issues. It's a supplement to the April 6, 2017 memorandum. So, Matt, welcome. You're
Thank
on.
you. I'm sorry about being late. The belt line was quite something. This memo addresses one of the questions that we're dealing with in terms of compliance checks when there are failed compliance checks and an employee who's not the license holder is the actual server who is cited. The question this memo addresses is whether, let me back up a little bit. So the statute now makes it clear that you can cite the server, but you cannot cite the license holder. You can't actually issue a citation and prosecute that license holder for that violation. You used to be able to do that, but the statute's been changed and you can't do that. And so this memo addresses the question whether the village could still suspend or revoke a license on the basis of those violations. So let's say there are 2 or more violations in a 12-month period. They are employees who are serving. Could the board choose to pursue suspension or revocation, or could the village? The memo concludes that the answer to that is yes, but it's a little complicated. I rely on a 1985 Wisconsin Supreme Court case in the context of an alcohol license matter where there was an employee, a bartender, who kept the bar open after hours and had people in the bar and was serving alcohol in the bar after hours, and that was actually a violation of the law at the time. And the license holder, who was not there, who didn't know about it, who wasn't participating, was charged and prosecuted, actually criminally, in that case. And the Supreme Court said that that was an appropriate prosecution, that license holder could be held liable vicariously for the acts of the employee in that context. And I think the reasoning of that case would apply if there were a case involving a proposed suspension or revocation of a license holder's license where their employees were improperly serving underage persons. We don't have a new case that addresses this issue specifically, so this is my best judgment based on available information. So, it's not a certainty that this is the right answer, but this is the best answer I can give given what we have to work with today.
So if we I was talking to Matt about this last week, so if we did it and we got challenged, we could be creating case law, good or bad.
Someone's going to be the test case.
Yeah.
I don't, maybe.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of these, as I think I've said before. I haven't seen a community choose to pursue suspension or revocation simply based on failed compliance checks. Generally, there's more going on than that when you actually get to the level of a suspension or revocation proceeding. So who knows? We may never get a. We may never get a.
We were talking about the bar that had the shooting in on the east side of Madison, and comparing it to this, doing compliance checks.
Yeah. So that's it. And I addressed this because my earlier memo did also conclude that we could pursue a suspension revocation on these proceedings, but it didn't really speak to this question of vicarious liability directly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do that because this is an ongoing discussion.
Are there questions or comments for Matt? Anyone? Yeah, I think with the issue, one, it's like the bigger cities, the issues are much more severe. There are fights and guns and that type of thing. And then,
well, this bar has this part of what I'm talking about has a history of problems.
It's a lengthy history, and then you get in smaller communities like us. It's much more personal. We know the people. We don't run them out of business. And the legislature took away the tools we had. So basically, what we have is have them come meet with us and see if they'll change.
Yeah, that's all.
Does that summarize it? Anything else anyone wants to say? Amanda?
I would just say that as long as the businesses are cooperative, if they get a violation, if they're willing to come in and work with us, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
If they stop talking to us, then we have a real problem.
Yeah.
So that's.
Yeah, and the young women that were just here,
yeah,
it seemed
exactly.
like they were sincere in wanting to make it work. So.
And Steve, I would just say the number one thing is let's just work this out.
Yeah.
You don't always have to hammer down.
Yeah, and they took the hammer away. So.
Yeah.
We have a little hammer still.
A little hammer.
We can cite the bartender.
This one, huh? Okay.
Water study.
What's that?
Well, water study, right?
D.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. I don't think the board needs to take any action on the main
Okay.
tab. I just had it on there in case you wanted to do something.
Okay.
So,
So 3D, discussion with Donald Heikela from OCAmedia and possible board direction regarding West Side water system study. Please note, due to the size of the study, is posted on the village's webpage under Village Board meeting packet. So, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Rupert Milky Night.
Yes, it is. I am Donald Hagel, as Mr. Stanton explained earlier. So the purpose of my visit tonight is to summarize the results of the water study that was completed back in 2017. Working with Mr. Rao earlier this year, we had scheduled a presentation for January, but I believe it was canceled due to a weather-related issue. So I would have been here a little earlier, but now is where you get me. So the water study is divided into 7 chapters. I'm going to kind of do a brief description of the chapters and kind of give you an idea of the purpose behind the study and the results of the study. So chapter 1 is basically an introduction of the report, and it identifies the main purpose of the report and the scope of the project. 2 key points for the purpose of the report. One is to evaluate the water system to identify recommended improvements to serve the western portion of the village. And the second key point is to evaluate the water system as a whole and to evaluate the water supply and storage needs out to a projected time period of the year 2035. Chapter 2 presents a summary of the existing water system, which includes the wells, the booster stations, the reservoirs, the storage tanks, and the water system. A description of the existing facilities is necessary so you know what you have, so you know what you have to begin to work with for identifying improvements. Chapter 3 lays down the basis of the population and community growth criteria for water system planning. It explains the existing population, also provides projection for future population, and also summarizes existing and future community growth based on long-range planning and comprehensive plan for development. Where development was planned to occur, we use that information to then plan our water system improvements based on population, and then where is this, the development, and what type of development is going to occur, where it is. That way we can know where to go. Chapter 4 summarizes the water requirements of the facility. Part of this, in this chapter, we look at the existing historical water supply and use characteristics. The village had a master plan update completed in 2015. One thing that we noticed in this study that was a significant difference between the 15 study was there was a significant increase in industrial water use compared to for 2013 to 2017 or 2016 water use. There was a 218% increase in industrial water use, and that was related to the addition of Lycon to the village, and all powder coating, all color powder coating also had an increased water use. So nice thing to see, a little industrial development and more water use within the village. So once we establish the basis of what the existing water use is, we can then go ahead, based on the information provided in the Chapter 3 for the population and community growth, we can establish some water factors to establish future water use projections for the year 2025 and 2035. We did that as establish the basis of the water use for those years by pressure zone. The village has two currently pressures of high-level pressure zone and the primary pressure zone and the high-level pressure zone. So those first 4 chapters lay the base of the groundwork, so we know where we can build from. Chapter 5 was the West Side service evaluation. During this chapter, we established a desired level of service for the West Side service area. We also established the service area for the future pressure zone. I don't know. Jeff, would you be able to do some pointers?
Yeah.
The point here doesn't help the board members. In the west, basically the majority of the western area is in the primary pressure zone, which is highlighted by yellow. In the future service area, we also had to consider the conservation easement, which is kind of in a hatched area. We identified just to the northwest of that area, there is a future private water well service area that will remain in private wells. And then was a new proposed development, which is the Highlands of Netherwood, that we take into consideration for immediate needs for serving the west side. So the immediate needs for serving the west side due to the development, we reviewed 2 alternatives to identify the best means to serve that development. Now, at the time of this study, that the Highlands development was in the preliminary plat layout, so the recommendations here were based on the preliminary layout. But the recommendations alternatives that we developed were quite flexible and can accommodate different layouts of once the final plat was developed. So part of that recommendation was to have a booster pump station constructed to serve the higher levels of the proposed development. And then the remainder of the development was, through the study, we were able to identify it could be served by the currently existing primary pressure zone. The booster pump station, as the recommendation, would only supply needs of normal demands, meaning average day demand, maximum day, and peak hour. The booster pump station would not provide fire protection. The supply, that would be served by the primary pressure zone, which actually becomes a very big savings because the way you model it, you don't have to provide fire pumps in order to provide that. Through modeling and analysis of the distribution system, we found a way to utilize their existing storage and existing infrastructure to provide fire protection under those extreme conditions. It just was not suitable to provide in the higher elevations to provide the desired level of normal adequate pressures in that area. That would require booster pumping, but under extreme condition scenarios such as fire flows, that can provide a adequate level of service of, we identified 1,500 gallons a minute of fire flow, fire protection service, which is really good for a residential area. Also in Chapter 5, I looked at the entire system as a whole and identified the need for identified a reliable supply deficiency that would occur sometime before 2035, and we also identified the need for additional storage. primary reason for additional storage is to improve the level of fire protection service that the village can provide. So chapter 6 is where we discuss the recommended water system improvements. So part of the recommendations are we will construct a new well to meet the water supply needs before 2035. Part of the recommendations to serve the new development would be constructing a booster pump station to provide normal operating conditions water supply and for developments that occur over 1,000 feet in elevation. Construct a 400,000 gallon elevated storage tank in the primary pressure zone. In addition to that, we would construct an interzonal booster pump station to provide a reliable supply capacity to the areas in blue for the high level pressure zone. And that also would improve the fire protection in the existing areas that are currently served in the high level pressure zone. And then we also identified some additional distribution system improvements to serve the area. The entire area there is basically the 2035 planned service area. So there's improvements that were identified for improving fire flow through the existing community, provide new water main to serve future development, and there was also some recommendations for kind of an allowance for an annual water main replacement program. And chapter 7 was the capital improvement plan. Basically, that it presents in a summary and brief discussion format of the summary and description of all the improvements and categorizes the improvements into a short-term, intermediate term, and a long-term basis to stage improvements to accommodate needs. And those improvements were then associated with the capital cost estimate. So they were broken out into groups. So that is basically the very quick description of the results of the water study for the west side.
Thank you. Are there any questions over here? You understand all that, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Good.
I think that the key points, that we want to continue to evaluate, for one thing, the health of our system, the status of the system, and how we will continue to keep up with growth. What you don't want to do is find yourself behind the ball, both for storage and fire protection and everything like that. So this is really good for us to update this periodically. We definitely wanted to be updating it because we're planning our well 6 out in the Highlands of Netherwood subdivision, and that's going through permitting and everything right now. And there is some trickiness with the fact that we have this small high pressure zone in the Highlands of Netherwood because we get so high as you get up to the Conservancy. So I think it's all very, what this does, and I think Don, I think you'd agree with us on this, is, in general, our system is healthy.
Yes.
We don't have any things out there that are like, oh my gosh, we're in trouble here. But it does say that, it does show that we need to continue to look at these future improvements, which will include well 6, will include an elevated storage tower, likely when we have to push across 138 or not across 14 in the 138 business park area. And, I think it's, and just other improvements as we continue to grow. I think some of the suggestions, obviously, upgrading some of our old 4-inch water main lines in portions of the town or village and that type of thing. But I think overall it was a very positive review of how we're operating right now.
Do you want to kind of touch on how our recommendations in the study have transformed into what the final plant is, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, you can talk about this, but I don't know if you remember, but the village originally purchased 1.7 acres, which is at the end of North Bergamot Boulevard, and what is now Peterson Trail. And as it's actually kind of come around full circle since then, we've determined that that's not as much of a suitable location just due to the close proximity to drainage fields, sanitary drainage fields, and these homes over here.
And I believe that portion of the development up in the northern portion, well, the north is to the left on the screen here.
Right.
There's also some planned stormwater retention and treatment ponds, which we
correct.
That would have been in close proximity to the wells, and that the idea is not to have any potential sources of contamination next to a well, and DNR won't actually allow you to do that either. So through working with developer, the village, and in discussions with our staff, there was a more suitable location actually found that does two things. It allows the combination of the well station to be constructed along with the booster pump station to serve the higher elevations within the development. Two things that does. Gives you the economy of scale during construction and provides you a more economical solution. Prior to that, we didn't see that because the changing layout of this development makes this alternative where you're putting them together. It was in the recommended plan of the study, they were two separate, but the physical layout of the development at the time made that more, at the time in the preliminary layout made two separate systems slightly more cost effective based on the length of water main that would have to install. Now this development here, the way the staff has all worked together here, has come up with a more, I think, a more economical and more operationally stable solution for the staff to operate.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Anything else, anybody?
I don't know if you're aware of this, but at the last school board meeting, the school district bought the 107 acres between the north edge of our village and Highway 14. That right there. And they're maybe going to put in a middle school. Yeah, but not like tomorrow. But by 2025, for sure, they'd probably be able to put something together. And I just thought I'd maybe put that on your radar. And it may, nothing's
that would be for
done yet, but
middle school.
That's what they're thinking. Of course, a lot can change. None of this is a done deal yet, but they are moving forward with that purchase. It was approved at the last meeting by the electors. So
what's nice about the way we approach planning is that when we're looking at, we would consider the middle school as a public water user, and public water use and commercial water use are typically proportional to population changes. So we can look at the historical background if you're concerned about quantity of water. That as everything proportionally increases, we accommodate a more proportional increase in long-range planning for water consumption by taking that as a per capita relationship. I think we've planned well enough, but like Jeff said earlier, we need to take a look at these plans and evaluate water systems more frequently than not if you do see a major change in population, a major change in community growth, and that way you make sure you are well positioned to accommodate additional water demand.
Good reminder. Ready?
Jeff, thanks for being proactive on this.
You're welcome. These guys
All
have
of
done a
you.
nice job
Yeah.
on it. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Thanks, Donald. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So right straight through, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, item 4, Director of Public Works Report. Item A, discussion possible action regarding North Prairie Parkway Sewer Lining Project. We recommend a motion to approve task order number 4 from Town and Country Engineering in the amount of $5,000 as a not to exceed amount for the services associated with the Prairie Parkway Sewer Lining Project. Funding for this task order is under the approved 2018 budget of the wastewater utility fund. So, need a motion, please?
I'll move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna switch from Rupert Milky Night to Town
Town
and
and
Country
Country,
Night,
yes.
and then we'll switch to another.
Thanks, guys. And welcome, Town and Country.
Hey, guys. Anytime we can bring competing engineering firms all in one room is bringing everyone together. Yeah, this is, I don't know if you realize, just to give you a little background, a couple months ago, it was in October, I think it was, we actually had another strong rainfall event, go figure, and that night we actually found ourselves falling way behind on our main pump station that feeds our wastewater treatment plant. And we were able to identify some other problems that we've come before you on some cleaning out of our sewer siphons over to the wastewater plant. But what we found in both the follow-up to that is that the village does have a significant, we call it I&I, infiltration and inflow, and that's basically clear water entering your system, and that can come in through cracks in your pipe, high groundwater conditions, which we all know we have a very high groundwater condition this year throughout the village. It can come in through open pick holes in manholes. It can come in through people who put sump pump water into the sanitary lines. And even, believe it or not, roof drains. People will, their roof gutters will have a direct connection sometimes to the sanitary flow. And the problem with that is that water goes into the same system that's being treated at our wastewater treatment plant, and that just takes up capacity. It has to be pumped, it has to be treated, and everything like that. And so, as a goal, I mean, you always are going to have some leaks in your system, but as a goal, you want to reduce your I&I. And so, I don't know if Ben, you want to talk about that a little bit, but this is kind of, we've realized for a couple of years that we've had a problem, but with the facility plan that Town and Country has been working on, they've identified that we are kind of sometimes spookily close. Spookily? Is that a word? Spell check. Okay, good. Close. Close at times in capacity at our wastewater treatment plant. And as we see new development, you know, we want to make sure that if we can kind of eliminate some of these I&I sources, we gain that capacity. You know, when you're looking at, sometimes it could be 80 or 100 gallons a minute. That's continually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when you can eliminate that, that starts to really you know, help and give us that comfort factor of capacity in our system.
Yeah, and just to expand on what Jeff was saying, I mean, this year, as you guys are aware, there's a lot of wet weather, a lot of flooding. You guys didn't experience near the flooding that some communities did, but you still saw an excessive amount of water at the wastewater treatment plant. And also then through the facilities plan that we're working on, which we'll be talking about more this spring as a group, you know, we've kind of started poking around at the numbers and quantifying where you guys are at, and you do have a lot of clear water entering your system. So both this and the next item on your agenda are attempts to start addressing that. So this first proposal, we're putting together bidding documents to do sewer lining, which is essentially pulling a sock through the sewer on North Perry Parkway, and then also evaluating doing some pressure grouting to try and eliminate that water from getting into the system, as opposed to just going in and doing mainline replacement. But because a large portion of Oregon is in low areas, you do have a fairly old collection system. You do see a large amount of clear water coming into the treatment plant. That's both taking up capacity at the treatment plant as well as an expense and a liability for you guys in terms of your long-term capacities. So that's really the approach that's trying to be taken here.
So about a year or so ago, it's probably a year and a half ago, there was some televising that was done on North Perry Parkway because the time we thought, yes, we do have an I&I problem over there. And we've been wanting to kind of do a lining or a grouting program over there, and it's just something that has kind of taken time to get to this point today. So this task order is for Town and Country to be able to prepare the bid documents, since the project, a lining project, will exceed the amount that we could just let this out to another company without a competitive bidding process. And I think it's good we competitive bid it, but it allows them to prepare the design documents and the bidding documents to be able to get this out. When they're done with that, then we'll bring this project back to you with an estimate and everything, and that we'll ask for it to go out to hopeful bidding this spring.
Okay. Questions or comments?
I've got a question. You mentioned a sock.
Yeah.
It's going to be put inside the current system.
Yep.
What's that? What material is that?
It is essentially a poly material that'll get pulled through the system, and then they'll expand that with either high pressure steam or water, and a resin's actually impregnated into the sock. So it kind of forms, for lack of better, like a fiberglass pipe inside of the pipe that you already have.
So you're going to line, in other words, line the
Yep.
pipe.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a really slick, it's kind of neat to see it. We can do a video sometime, but it's really neat to see them do this, and then you actually end up with it basically can take an old cruddy pipe, and then you end up with, at some of the brand I think is even called new pipe, and it looks like a brand new PVC pipe in it when they're done, and then they go back in and cut the holes in for the laterals and everything.
What's the life of that process?
The manufacturers will list the life at essentially new pipe.
New pipe.
So you're-
50 to 100
yeah,
years.
50 to 100 years. And prior to doing that, and one of the big things as we try and target I&I is going in and doing what's called pressure grouting. So even before we pull that sock through and then expand it and get it to cure in place, we would go through with a grout material and try and seal up all of the cracks in the system that are known to be leaking.
Okay.
I'd be interested in certain videos that other folks do. It sounds like a very interesting process.
Yeah, it's like there's.
And I think for people on TV, it would be nice for them to see it also.
Yeah, we can. When we bring the project back for approval, that's when we'll do a video for that.
Okay, great.
You're going to be in big trouble if that doesn't last 100 years, though.
You'll know where to find me. I'll be up at Prairie Mountain Cemetery.
I know.
Okay, so any other questions or comments? We have the motion and second to approve task order number 4 from Town and Country Engineering for $5,000 for the Perry Parkway sewer lining project. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, we'll go to item B. Thanks on that one, Ben. Item 4B, discussion possible action regarding sanitary sewer collection system infiltration and inflow study. Recommended motion is to approve task order number 3 from Town and Country Engineering, in the amount of $30,250 as a not-to-exceed amount for the services associated with the collection system inflow and infiltration evaluation study. Funding for this task order is under the 2018 approved budget out of the wastewater utility funds. Need a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Draw it again.
So this is kind of expounding on the last one, actually taking and looking at your system as a whole to do investigations and identification of problem areas for that I&I. The previous task order, you guys knew there was issues on Perry Parkway, and this would attempt to lay out other areas in your system where there's known and quantifiable amounts of clear water leaking into your system. So what we're proposing to do, and it's going to take a while to do that, is review the system with your staff and then go in and do a variety of flow monitoring techniques. Some of it will be long-term deployment of actual flow meters in your collection system to try and capture and quantify the clear water that's entering. And then some of it could be nighttime flow monitoring, which would involve us, along with your staff, going out and popping manholes after a large rain event. We do it during the nighttime hours because that's the time when you have the least actual sewage contributions in your system, and we get a pretty good picture of how much is actually leaking during those wet weather events. So that's all kind of the plan that would be done in here. At the end of it, we put together both recommendations for follow-up. Depending on what's found during the first phase, you could undertake a second phase of study where you do some additional investigations that could include smoke testing, dye testing, where you're trying to find specific cracks and leaks and interconnections in your system. And then we'd also prepare some remediation recommendations for you guys to review and a report to kind of summarize all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Comments,
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah, smoke testing's fun because then you put a whole bunch of smoke in the sewer system, and then you start seeing it come out of people's homes and stacks in their out of their gutters.
It
and
does
that type of
certainly
stuff.
get interesting at times.
Yeah, but yeah, this
That's
is
right down Jeff's alley, just
right,
so you know.
Right. And I don't know if you noticed, in the past couple of years' budget, we have included funds putting towards basically I&I study and I&I removal, and this is exactly the route we're going down. So this is a good thing to be starting on this.
Okay.
I'll just mention there's an interesting case pending in the Wisconsin Supreme Court right now involving a community that had a known I&I problem. And they knew that whenever they had heavy rains, they had some sewer backup issues that they were concerned about. And so there's a case pending right now in which someone who experienced sewer backups alleged that the community was responsible for maintaining a private nuisance because of, and the I&I problem was part of the claim. And so there's the legal question is whether the community has immunity from liability. And if they don't, then there's going to be a lot more work for people like you.
That could set a pretty extreme precedent.
Right.
What's that?
I said that could set a pretty extreme precedent.
Yeah, the insurance industry is concerned about it. Municipalities are concerned about it because you might be faced with having being kind of behind the 8 ball in terms of making this kind of investment. I mean, it's a good idea to take care of this in a thoughtful and gradual manner rather than have to upgrade your whole system all at once.
So would you prioritize where you
Yeah.
start,
Yep.
like with the worst?
Yep, typically
know,
at the end of all of
find
this, what we would do is summarize your worst areas and provide you some budgetary costs for what it would take to remediate and whether it's something like lining would be recommended to target that or outright replacement, or if there's something on the private side. And sometimes it's not a construction repair, it's review of ordinances for some pumps and policies for some pumps, and things like that, depending on what we find out of the investigations.
Is that something too that you have to wait till spring for?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I said at the
Water's
beginning,
not
it
flowing
could,
in the
I
winter.
mean, this could go out over, 2 years, because, if we have another 2018, which I'm hopeful that we don't, because there were a lot of other issues with that, that's a great time to get out and do this kind of investigation. If we have another 2012 where it's dry as a bone, it becomes a little bit more challenging to really quantify what's going on. So we're a little bit at the mercy of the weather and, kind of take what's given to us in that regard.
I can kind of be, you heard the term death by 1,000 paper cuts. I can kind of be that, 1,000 little pick holes in a manhole actually do add a lot of water into a system. But then there's the kind of low-hanging fruit sometimes, which are large cracks, separated pipe, old clay pipe, and that type of stuff. And
that's really the stuff we're trying to identify
exactly.
with a study like this, is that low-hanging fruit.
And Amanda, to your question, we'll be focusing, a lot of area in the lower parts of Oregon. Quite honestly, the area around the high schools, Oregon Manor, those streets over there, kind of as we get closer to the wastewater treatment plant, because that's where we foresee the biggest problems.
And your staff has done a very good job at documenting and quantifying and doing their own investigations. So, compared to a lot of communities, you guys have a bit of a leg up and just, where the bad areas are, even where some bad lines are. So at this point, it's a matter of quantifying and coming up with some remediation actions for it.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else? Okay, so we have the motion and second to approve task order number 3 from Town and Country, the amount of $30,250 for services related to the collection system inflow and infiltration evaluation study. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. You want the next one too?
Yep.
Item C, discussion possible action regarding Vector dump station and septic pump station upgrade project. Engineering recommend a motion, approval of task order number 5 from Town and Country Engineering in the amount of $25,000 as a not to exceed amount for the services associated with design, bidding, and resident observation for waste receiving improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. Funding for this task order is under the approved 2018 wastewater utility fund.
I'll move. Steve, you want a motion?
Yeah.
A second.
Thank you.
This is also kind of partly coming out of the facilities plan, but then also partly coming out of just our need. Now that we have the truck and we have it operating a lot, the need for this, it's basically a spot where we can offload the truck in a safe and effective manner. It's essentially a concrete bathtub, so it's not a very fancy piece of thing, but it's a concrete bathtub structure of sorts that allows them to dump that out, keep the solids out of the system, and then it would dump to our what we call our septage pumping station. And we've always had problem with our septage pumping station with the discharge line and the pump. And so this is a chance to be able to upgrade all of those. The great question always that I foresee in this is, if we ever did any major changes at the plant, is this something that we'll continue to use? And the answer is yes. Even if we were, say, to discharge or eventually discharge to MMSD, we'd still use this type of facility. And we've kind of been finalizing and working up kind of some budgetary numbers. You approved in this 2019 budget an additional amount to be able to handle some of the construction costs, which had increased, and now we're just ready to move ahead with the project.
Okay. Do you have any other additional comments?
Nope, I think you covered it.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Jerry?
Yeah, quick question, Jeff. Where is this going to be located? Do you know exactly yet?
Inside the pump, inside the wastewater treatment plant. as you come in the gate, it'll be right on your left.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, so we have the motion second to approve task order number 5 from Town and Country Engineering, in the amount of $25,000 for services associated with the design, bidding, and resident observation for waste receiving improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Ben.
So Ben, I would mention, you heard me make a comment about we've been pleased with Rupert Milk and what they've done, and I've been involved in a number of projects in Town and Country and would feel the same way about what you do too. I didn't want you to leave and feel slighted, because I think you've done a good job with our water and sewer stuff too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you guys bring $1,000? I'm sorry,
Ben. We're working on that, but it takes a long time.
No plaque either? We don't get a plaque?
We got a bar chart. That was good.
Okay, item 4D, discussion of possible action regarding new water maintenance pickup truck. Recommend motion to authorize Public Works to procure a 2018 Ford F-250 XL Super Cab pickup and service body from Kaiser Commercial Sales, the amount of $38,500. Funding for this will be out of the water utility as approved in the 2018 budget. So motion, please.
I'll move that.
Second.
Thank you.
It's Christmas time.
Any discussion, questions?
You get a bow with that then?
Is this
I'd like a ride. No.
is this replacing a vehicle?
This is replacing Amos's vehicle, which is the white pickup truck that with the service box on the back, and that's a replacing. I thought I had a number in here.
2007.
2007 vehicle. Yeah, 2007 vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
We're actually going to keep that vehicle in service.
That's really what I was going to ask. Yeah. Okay.
We won't be selling that quite yet.
So
Okay.
this is the vehicle Amos will be driving?
Yes. Mm-hmm. He takes really good care of the equipment.
Yeah. Anything else? So we have a motion second to approve purchase of the 2018 Ford F-250 XL Super Cab for Public Works. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item E, discussion possible action, purchase of the Skag mower for the cemetery. Recommend a motion. Approve the procurement of a Skag Turf Tiger mower from Mid-States Equipment, the amount of $12,404 for use at the Prairie Mound Cemetery. Funding to be from Fund 414 is approved in the 2019 budget. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm bringing this to you tonight mostly because we can get actually a deal on a 2018 unit for about $12,169 and save about $1,300 over what we'd be paying under the new engine types and increase in cost. And the quote is good through the 1/7, and that's why I'm bringing it through to you now. I also would like to get this early spring so that when we do need to have the mower up at the cemetery, I'm not waiting for delivery of a mower. I think it's very important we hit the ground running with that this spring. So Lisa's going to find the money.
Any questions or comments? We have talked about this before.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion second to approve the mower for Prairie Mound Cemetery, $12,404. That's from Fund 414 in the 2019 budget. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Item F, discussion of possible action regarding South Standpipe Rehabilitation, Strand Associates Task Order 18-02. Recommend a motion. Approval of Task Order 18-02 from Strand Associates in the amount of a not to exceed amount of $28,100 for engineering services associated with the South Standpipe. Funding for this will be from the approved 2018 and 2019 water budgets. Need a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
I think it's good testimony. This is our third engineering firm before us tonight, and I think what this does show and is that we are utilizing people for specific talents and experience and history as well. And so I've worked with Ryan both when I was in consulting and also he's done some work with us on some other tank inspections. Fewer and fewer engineers are doing tank work. Is that correct, Ryan?
Yep.
And Ryan did kind of an inspection, or he did an inspection for us last year. That comes down to the liability of climbing the tanks, to be honest with you. And so there's fewer and fewer that do that. And they've done a nice job on that. They recently you approved a task order that, to do the inspection work, and that inspection's been done. Ryan's identified what needs to be done, and now we need to be able to prepare the bid documents and get that done and ready for a spring advertisement and bidding, and then summer painting and coating. We have to drain the tank, basically, dry it, clean it, prep it, and paint it, correct?
Yep.
So.
I think the interior tank repaint project's been in your capital improvement plan on your radar for a few years.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think it's a new project to you guys. The exterior was overcoated back in 2014, and the plan there was to hold off on the interior wet for a few years. You got to get a little bit of extra life out of that tank.
Yeah.
So it's just time to get it done. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions or comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What is it? What's the function of a standpipe?
Water tank. It's they're standpipes are just at grade water tanks. So like this is the South Main Blue Tower.
Okay.
If you're going up, and we also have one up at Oak Hill, out there near Oak Hill on the hill.
Is a standpipe a part of the tower, or?
No, it's a,
is that how
it's just a nomenclature of what. So
that's
like
what it,
sometimes water towers you think of being like the big spheroid tower. Well, it's just out on Lincoln Road.
Yeah,
That's a true tower. A standpipe is more like a silo, if you
okay.
will.
All
and,
right.
But it's at grade, and they both serve the exact same purpose.
Okay, I didn't know if this was a part of the tower or
Right.
part of that apparatus.
When does a creek become a river, right? When does a standpipe become a tower?
Yep. There's a lot of different types of tanks you can implement
Okay.
systems.
And then how long does the coating last?
So an interior tank coating typically lasts between 15 and 30 years.
So they deteriorate, or they just
the inside of a tank, well, both the inside of the tank and the outside of the tank both see different elements that degrade the coating over time.
Mhm.
So the outside sees sunlight and wind and rain and
Mhm.
everything like that.
Paintballs.
Paintballs, kids that right on it. The inside sees changing in water levels, a little bit of freezing, and it's a humid environment that's just hard on tank.
okay. So what is the coating?
So the inside of the tank is either a zinc-based primer with 2 coats of epoxy,
Mhm.
or just 3 coats of epoxy, and that's when the primer coats what we'll have to discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And so that their proposal, and I talked to both Ryan and Justin, who's the other engineer who I used to work with on this, and you know, one thing I do know that Strand does pay very close attention to is construction observation and making sure that things are being done well and done properly, and making sure the prep is done well and stuff. So they've got plenty of visits in there for that.
Good, thanks. Anything else from trustees? Okay, so the motion is second to approve task order number 18-02 from Strand, the amount of $28,100 for cost with the south standpipe. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item G, discussion of possible action, wastewater treatment plant, return activated sludge pump number 2, recommended motion to approve the purchase of 1 Fairbanks RAS pump from LW Ellen for the amount of $10,412, which includes the pump and installation cost. Funding for this will be from the wastewater treatment plant equipment replacement fund. So we need a motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second.
Thank you.
I think it's my last ask of the night.
No time.
No time.
I know.
Not
quite. Dominating the meeting.
Just a couple meetings, and I have to catch up here. So, but actually, this is just pump number 2. We did pump number 1 last year. they were old pumps. They're at the end of their useful life, and we're just replacing them. So this is like the second part of this.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item H, Public Works Update, former Youth Center building, Jefferson Street lighting and parking lot project, and downtown parking lots, and alternate parking regulations.
All right, I'm just gonna, just really quickly, these are just some things that are ongoing that I thought people should know about. We did auction the building off, and it was auctioned to William Jacobs of Richmond Center for $3,599. I actually just received the check today, and that's being deposited, so that goes back into 414. I actually met them out on site today. They were working, they have all the walls, everything's out on the inside, all the ceilings down, and we should see steel coming down probably in the next week to week and a half. So we're working on getting utilities disconnected and everything, so they're making great progress. I don't think they'll be done at the 31st, and we've given them some grace into the new year just because of the holidays and everything like that. Yeah, that's I think a win-win for them for reuse, and then a win for us for them to be able to remove it without a cost to us.
Steve?
Jeff,
Jeff, is this going to impact, I know Dan was concerned about asphalt. Getting asphalt down or having to wait until next June?
Yeah,
does this impact this
no,
at all? Okay.
No, that doesn't impact, because actually, and I was out there today, you know, the base of the building is all concrete. And so I would be surprised if they don't leave that there now as a pad for staging equipment.
I wasn't sure
and
exactly.
materials.
I know he was concerned about not being able to get that.
Yeah, and there aren't any asphalt plants open right now. It's just too cold. Anything else on youth center building? Okay. Jefferson Street lighting and parking lot project. We're going for a bid opening unless anything changes. I'm going to be making some phone calls tomorrow to make sure that we are getting some bidders. We've had some very poor luck with this on two times, so this is our third time's a charm. We're really praying that we'll get some good bids on this. And so hopefully I'll come back with some good news in about a month on that. You probably saw the poles are down along Jefferson Street, if you haven't noticed. And that was, if we were waiting on Frontier for almost 8 months, and they finally got stuff done. Alliant was very good in getting those poles down right off the bat. It looks nice. I think it looks really nice, and I can't wait to see the north-south leg come down in the near future. Since we are still working on, we restriped the parking lot. It's been going really well over there. I think there's parking spaces, and Jefferson Crossing is full, and I've just been, both Mike and I have been very happy and pleased with how everything's running over there. But it's still technically under construction and everything. And last year when we did this too, we've just decided that we won't be doing the alternate side park or the alternate parking lot enforcement this year. It'll also be good timing because this next year, I think it was at the meeting I missed, where we talked about the downtown parking signage and everything. We're going to loop that all together and take care of that all as one. So with new parking, new signage, new enforcement signs and everything like that. So I think that's about it.
Okay, any questions for Jeff? Okay. You can sit back and relax, Jeff.
Catch up here too.
Okay, item 5, village attorney and village administrator report, discussion and possible board direction regarding open meetings law requirements and guidelines, including the formation of working groups comprised of committee commission members and village board members attending affordable housing coalition meetings. So away you go.
Here we go. All right. So I think Mike included in your packet an outline I prepared and have updated from time to time, and I've used this outline to give presentations to village boards and city councils regarding the open meetings law. And so it's there as a reference for you in the future too if you have questions. I think we're going to focus tonight on one of the key issues, which is how many people have to get together for you to have a meeting. And it turns out that answering the question is a little more complicated than you might think. So the law says a couple of things. One, if we have 1/2 or more of the members of a governmental body say, the village board or a committee or the plan commission, if you've got half or more together, then there's a legal presumption that that group of people are together for the purposes of conducting a meeting, and that it's a meeting and it has to be noticed under the law and so on. You can rebut that presumption by presenting evidence that that's not really why you were together. You weren't there to do governmental business, but there is that legal presumption. The court has established a two-part test for determining whether there's a meeting, and the first part is, what's the purpose? Are we here for the purpose of discussing or deciding or information gathering regarding governmental business? And I'll just touch on information gathering for a minute, because that can kind of get, people can get a little hung up on that. So, for example, if the members of a governing body go on a fact-finding trip to go see something, because Jeff wants to show them a water tower or something like that.
Or standpipe.
Yeah, standpipe. That's a meeting. You're there gathering information. Got to notice that. We don't do that too often, but if you go to another body's meeting, because you want to listen to what they're saying, because you're gathering information that might be relevant to what you're doing here, that satisfies the purpose test, the gathering information piece, even if you're not an active participant and you're just listening in. That's the information gathering part of the test. The second part of the test is the numbers test, and this is where it gets really crazy, because what the court has said is, if you have a number of members present sufficient to determine the body's course of action, then you meet the numbers test. And that can be either enough people to affirmatively adopt something, or enough people to prevent something from being adopted. So that's like a negative quorum. And when you add to that, so if we were talking about all 7 members of the village board, if it takes 4 votes to approve something, if all 7 of you are here, then what? 3 people could prevent? 3 people would be a negative quorum. But it gets more interesting when you think about your quorum requirements. In Oregon, I think our quorum is 4. So you could have 4 board members who would come to a meeting and constitute a quorum and could do business. And how many people would it take to affect the outcome of a measure? 2. And so that can, when you think about it, that really puts us in a kind of in a pickle, right? Because then 2 trustees can't talk about governmental business without it being potentially deemed a meeting. One thing that Mike and I talked about you could consider doing to kind of give yourself a little more leeway is change our quorum requirement from, say, 4 to 5. So you've got to have at least 5 members to have a meeting. I think then we did the math, and I think you'd need to have 3 people to affect the outcome. So you could at least have 2 trustees who could run into each other and talk about something, and it's not a meeting. But short of that, you know, kind of quorum change, so you could, and 2 trustees, of course, can always talk together about social things and non-governmental business, and that's not a meeting. But if 2 trustees are on the phone or in person and they're talking about governmental business, what are we going to do about this issue that's on the agenda tomorrow night? That's when you have a problem under the open meetings law. And the numbers are surprising when you do the analysis this way. There are other things that my memo or my outline talks about, which I'd be happy to talk to anybody about at any time, but I think tonight we just really wanted to hit on the number issue. So there you have it.
Another clear and concise law.
That's why we need all these lawyers.
So have you seen a problem with what we're doing, or?
No, I haven't really seen, I haven't seen a problem. It's just something that we have to kind of periodically remind ourselves about, so that, and again, as I like to do this after every election where we get new people, because new people aren't necessarily up on some of these obscure laws. and I think people are surprised when they really walk through the analysis under the open meetings law and when you could technically be deemed to be having a meeting. I know I was surprised the first time I learned about that. Wow, that's kind of surprising.
So I've talked to a single trustee about issues in the past, off and on. What I thought was, my understanding was you can't talk to a third. That's the first I've heard of the negative quorum of, quorum of 4 constitutes that, so it's 2. Yeah. So I have talked to one other person, and I've usually tried to say, now neither one of us can talk to anybody
Can't talk to anybody else because then you have a walking quorum.
But we can't even talk to one.
That's, I think, and that to me, that's too restrictive. If it were me, I'd say let's increase our quorum to 5 people.
Yeah.
Now, Mike's concern maybe is, well, there have been times when
we've only had 4.
We've only had 4, and then it's hard to get a meeting sometimes. Yeah. So it's really up to you guys to decide how you want to balance this. And I'm just telling you what the law is, and it's a little uncomfortable sometimes on something like this. I'm not even as careful as I need to be. Sometimes we get done with a meeting here, and then a couple of people come over, and we'll have a little conversation, and I should be like, wait, stop.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting, the guidelines that are in place for us, but you go to the state capitol, and it's both parties. They can talk behind closed doors as many people as they want, as often as they want, right? Seems like there's, they're talking about going into caucus. And
my impression is that, the folks up there, they have a completely different universe they operate in. That's certainly true. I would also say that, I think if you look at kind of statewide practice on open meetings law, it's not what I wish it were in terms of compliance.
Yeah.
I also think that people don't really even understand what I just talked about tonight in terms of how the number test plays out.
Right.
What are the consequences?
Well, that's the
getting fined.
Put your finger on it. And most of the time, there are no consequences for violating the law because 99.9% of the time, nobody does anything. It's just that one. You don't want to be the one who gets caught up in a problem. I've become a little cynical about the open meetings law, partly because of some litigation I was involved in, where there were blatant violations of the open meetings law that went on for about a year, and there was really no consequence, and I thought, boy, that was kind of an eye-opener. Technically, you can be charged and prosecuted as a local official for violating the open meetings law, but that takes, it doesn't happen much, honestly. So, if you accidentally talk to someone, it's probably not going to mean you're being charged by the DA next day.
Yeah. So the cynic in me right now says, catch me if you can. So Randy has something.
So this happened at the Housing Coalition. We had 4 village board members at the meeting, right?
Yeah, it was 3 when I asked Jeff to leave.
Yeah, we had
because back then I thought 3 out of 7 was a negative walking quorum.
But,
So I was.
one of us had to leave the meeting.
Right,
it should have been 2 of us.
But technically, 2 of you should have.
Yeah.
In hindsight,
yeah.
now. And we're going to talk about that.
Okay, solve that problem.
Yeah, right now there's 2 of us that are on that, or 3 of us that are on that committee. So.
Yeah. Yep. I would say this community is above average in terms of paying attention and trying to do the best you can to comply with the law. You're an above average community in that department.
Yeah, you and Mike at least as well on lots of things.
Well, we try to keep you informed.
You should give us a plaque.
For the $1,000.
That's pretty big. Here's your above average plaque.
Yes, not excellent, just above average.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
all. That's all.
It's like a participation trophy.
Goal.
For example,
We're number 10.
We notice the chamber dinner. We notice groundbreaking. So we try to notice everything we can. It's more now with this this memo. It's the interchange between board members at bills. You run into each other. Technically, right now, we shouldn't be talking village business. You talk about why the Packers are playing so poorly, but other than that, you shouldn't be talking about village business unless we change the quorum issue. Yeah, and I would say, generally speaking, that hasn't been a problem. But there probably we would have had a quorum of 5 a requirement. We could have had an issue a couple times, but it really has not been the
No, it's been really minimal, my recollection.
Yeah. But I think if we do go up to 5, then I would definitely ask board members to tell us ahead of time they're not going to be here.
Yeah.
Please, yeah.
So is that something you'd like to just go to 5? I would.
I would.
I think we
I
should.
think that'd be the
Better
smart
be
thing.
safe.
I've been around much longer, but.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get your question answered, Randy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
go to 5.
Okay,
So
it sounds like
We
that's
can
what-
draft an ordinance, go to 5,
Yep.
Yeah.
and then you don't have to worry about it with 2 people.
Yeah.
Then you're back to where we thought we were, which was 3.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what my thought it was 3.
I appreciate you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate you doing this. I'd never heard of a negative quorum before. I was surprised by that, and then of course to find out that 2 people are considered a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've found, I guess everybody else had, that sometimes you have an idea, you'd like to run it by somebody else, get some feedback before you advance it beyond that. That's kind of how I've used that, is get some feedback on something and see what somebody else thinks, if it's worth bringing forward or not, do they think it is.
Yep.
Go from there. So.
Yep.
Would this rule change it for all the committees also? Are all our committees at least 7 people, or how
No,
would that
no,
work?
well, no, I don't think so. So this is the board member, the quorum requirement for the board we're talking about. For standing committees, what do we typically have for number of committees?
Not for standing committees, but like for the park board and plan commission.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to talk to Matt about that. HPC, they're all 7 members plus alternate.
With a 4-person quorum?
Yep.
So same issue presented
Yep.
there.
Mhm.
And it gets even harder with committees with smaller numbers.
I think the standing
Because-
committees know they can't talk to each other outside of meetings because you have a quorum.
Yeah, that's 3
2 out of-
people.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they know they can't do it.
3-person
for
committee and
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, so for example, on the Parks Board, like I've been working with Mark
we're
Miller
gonna-
to do the Adopt a Park
Yeah,
program.
we're going to talk about that.
So that,
Yeah.
we're going to talk
Yeah.
about what is
That would be-
and it's on the outline.
Yep.
What is a governmental body that is subject to the open meetings law? So we'll talk about that.
Well, it's,
We'll talk about that
well,
now,
yeah,
or is
including
that
the,
coming
well,
there?
we have, I was using the park board on the agenda about the formation of working groups comprised
Right.
of, members. And I mean, so it's different when a park board or plan commission, they create an ad hoc committee. That's easy. You have to notice that. But I started getting concerned when I read Matt's memo, and then I realized we do have the park board and other bodies that create these working groups, so.
Yeah, and the rule of thumb I have is if the parent body has created the subunit, the working group, what have you, or formally recognized it in some way, or is, if it appears to be something that was created by the parent body in some way, then it may well be deemed a governmental body that is itself subject to the open meetings law. If, on the other hand, let's say 2 members of the park board just decide on their own, hey, let's get together and work on this, and maybe we can make some progress and bring something back and talk about it, and it's not something that the parent body has assigned to you as a task or something, then the 2 people working on that are not a governmental body.
so that's kind of how it ended up being, because Mark was working on it, and that was something that interested me, and I just thought if you want some help, we could get together and talk about that, and I just kind of volunteered it, and then we got together and we talked about it. That was, that was it. It wasn't necessarily the park board saying, you 2 work on this, now you're a committee. It was,
Right,
I
so,
don't know,
I mean,
so-
there's going to be the obvious
But it-
cases and then the less obvious cases, and so you'll just have to kind of think about, okay, where are we
Okay.
here? If it's you and Mark
mean,
just on your own,
because some people have to you have to be able to collaborate with people to get something for a bigger body to work on. So I don't.
yeah, and you can always do that. The only thing the open meeting law does to you is that the only thing that it adds to the equation is if you are a governmental body, if you are a committee, if you are a formal ad hoc committee, working group, whatever, you have to notice your meeting, and you have to be in a room where the public can come and see what you're doing.
That's the thing, yeah.
That's what the open meeting law adds to the equation.
Could something like a committee of the whole alleviate some of these questions? As far as even I don't even know if Parks Board or some of the subcommittees would utilize that, but at least for
It would still be subject to the open meeting law.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
but I mean I'm thinking more to give trustees the opportunity to have a discussion about things without having to take action on them.
So we can do that through a committee of the whole, but it's not, with this board, which is a relatively small and very collegial board, I don't see a real need to do that in a larger body, like a city council with 12 members, which I happen to work with. They're very formal about how they do things as a council. Everything has to be, by the book and motion and second and blah, blah, blah. And the rules are a little confining, and so then they do sometimes choose to meet as a committee of the whole so that they don't have to be as formal in how they discuss something.
Okay.
But when they're at a meeting as a council, they don't do anything that, is not on the agenda, and there's a motion, and there's a second, and then the discussion is just about that. And so, but this body, I have not ever seen a need to I've always seen this body have the ability to have an informal discussion. It has to be on the agenda,
right,
that we can talk about it. But we're doing it tonight. We don't have a formal action item on the agenda, but we're having a conversation in a committee-type format.
Okay. Thank you.
But generally speaking, Amanda, the safest thing to do is don't do those working groups, or whatever you want to call them. It's the reason for the open meeting law is that you do things so the public can see the interchange and discussion, even if it's between two members. To be honest with you, that's really the bottom line on it.
Somebody might want to write a story about it in the paper.
You're welcome. We met in a public place. It was, but yeah, we can do that. And does that change though if we we can change our quorum to 5, but if the Parks Board said, okay, a quorum is 5, then that isn't a problem for 2 members.
Two members can get on the phone
together
independently, say, hey,
okay,
I want to talk about this.
Okay, I got you.
The difference is, if you're let's say you're all at a meeting and you're having, how are we going to figure this out? Or, hey, how about if Mark and I get together and we kind of work on this, and the rest of the committee, that sounds like a good idea.
And that's what happened at the last meeting.
That starts to look like the committee is kind of assigning that to you,
or saying, oh yeah, go ahead and work on it.
Yeah, go ahead. Bring that back to us. We look
so,
forward
but
to
if Mark and I wanted to do that, let's say we still want to get together and do that, I could contact you, Mike, and say, Mark and I are going to get together this date, this time, this place. It's publicly open. Anyone's welcome to come observe.
We would
That's
notice
cool.
it.
Piece of cake.
Do you have to take notes then?
Oh, minutes. Yeah, good point.
I actually don't think for something like that there's a requirement that you have minutes. I don't think so.
I mean, we'd have a work product to show for it because we're
product.
working on documents, so people are welcome to see that. It's
But what happens is that you can do this hundreds of times, and it's that one time you do something that somebody perceives as controversial, and that's what happened many years ago. How the village got in trouble. It was the one time.
That's when it always blows up, is when you've got people who are upset about something, and then they lash out at everything.
Okay, so do you need a motion, or do you have enough you need to
if the board's okay with just telling us, I think what we'll do is I think the members or the committees and boards that have 7 members will increase it to 5. And then I just made a note, I'll share this with Planning Commission and Matt's memo, Planning Commission, HBC, and the Park Board.
Okay. Any objection to going to 5? Okay. Got it.
And then, so one last item was the notice that I'm going to do now. I'm just going to revise it a little bit. Next time the Housing Coalition is going to meet in the future, I'm going to add consequently there'll be no village board agenda prepared for the meeting. So I'm going to start adding that to the future notices.
That was at our place.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else on 5A? Okay, 5B, review of rules of order table.
That's a cool
This
chart.
is just a handy cheat sheet. And again, this body is a little less formal than others, but there are times when this body is taking actually a vote on something, like adopting an ordinance. We do follow the there's a motion, there's a second, and then there can be, and we have had cases where there have been proposed amendments, and have we ever had anything tabled here? I'm not sure. Probably.
Seldomly we have, yeah.
Yeah, so this just gives you it's based on Robert's Rules of Order, and it just tells you what takes precedence over what, and whether something's debatable, and whether there's a supermajority vote required, and so I found this to be a pretty handy thing to have.
I'd like a printed copy of that.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put them in the rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'd like to do it right for the next 4 months.
Jerry already made his. Nice going. Can I just say, too, I was at that, new board members.
New officials workshop.
101, yes, the new officials workshop. And the guy who was talking about the rules of order and stuff, he said that calling question is not a thing. Like,
It's
it
actually
doesn't.
a motion to close debate.
Okay, so it's just the wording. So when people say I call the question, that
That's
really
a motion
doesn't.
to end debate.
Right.
And I think
Right.
it's a supermajority vote required.
Yeah.
Well, because but he said that if even one person says, no, I want to keep talking about it, that you have to keep talking about it.
Well, it depends on what rules you've adopted.
Okay.
I think we've adopted Robert's rules, and I think that's what this chart is based on. You could choose to have a rule where, it has to be unanimous agreement to end debate. But I think we're currently operating under 2/3 requirement.
Okay, so that's a flexible.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, that's
not come up in 16 years, so.
Well, somebody did say I called the question in a meeting recently, and I thought that's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
And we just kept talking about it a little longer, and then we voted. It was fine. But
so the two most common things that are not a thing, that's one, and the other is friendly amendments.
Really,
what is that?
Will you accept a friendly? That's what, So that's where there's a motion on the table,
right.
and someone says, "Will you accept a friendly amendment?" Which is essentially asking, "Will you agree to change your motion based on what I'm asking?" And that's not really allowable under the rules. What you should do is formally propose an amendment.
Okay.
Because the way it works under the rules is once there's a motion made and seconded, it doesn't belong. It now belongs to all of you. It doesn't belong to the person who made the motion. Once that motion's been made and seconded, you all now have ownership over that motion, and so you can't go to the person who made it and say, "Well, you agree to change it." They don't have that authority, technically speaking.
Okay.
So you have call for the question on here. That's not a thing?
It's called,
The wording.
but technically, it may, does it say call the question?
It does.
Yeah, it does.
It's a motion, you can say I call the question, but what it is formally speaking, it's a motion to close debate. And so you actually have to vote on
I like that
it.
better. This call for the question is like,
Yeah.
it's out there. I don't understand.
Yeah,
what
it's
it
I
means.
move to close debate is
Okay.
the best way to say it. And I move to end debate.
Anything else on the rules of order table?
Oh, it's so exciting.
Okay, item C, discussion of possible action, ordinance number 18-18, creation of a room tax commission. I recommend a motion is to introduce and hold the first reading of the ordinance 18-18 at 12/17/18 board meeting.
So move.
Second.
You want a little background on this one too, or?
A little bit.
Okay, a little bit. So the village has already adopted an ordinance that imposes a room tax, but because of the fairly complicated room tax statute, this body has the authority to spend 30% of what you collect through room tax, but 70% of it you don't get to spend. You have to actually transfer that either to a commission, which you create, which is what we're doing, or to, if we have a qualifying tourism entity already existing in the community, you could give them the money. And so the purpose of this ordinance is to create a room tax commission. The members of that commission will be appointed by the village president, subject to confirmation by the village board, and then that body will have the authority to spend 70% of the room taxes that are collected in the village of Oregon.
So what happens to the 30%?
The village board can put that in your general revenue and spend it on whatever you want as part of your budget.
So is this an item that's going to require more action? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, the 30% in the 19 budget helping to pay for the planner.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other 70% is a future agenda item?
Is part of this, the commission's going to decide that.
Yeah, the future agenda item for this body is going to be to approve the appointees to this committee. So the village president will have to decide who to appoint, bring that to you all. You will decide whether to approve those or not. Once that happens, the way I see this working is, when the revenue comes in, 30% will go to the village side of the ledger and 70% will go to the commission. Yeah. And the commission will have the right to spend it. Now, they have some legal constraints. And they have to spend it on what the statute defines as tourism promotion and development. But that can include some interesting things that I think we want to bring to their attention, including potentially, for example, helping to pay for J.C. Park improvements and things of that nature. So, and the bike trail, fixing the bike trail. If they choose to spend it on that, I think that would be within their authority.
But that will be up to the commission.
It'll be up to the commission, and they have to have one representative of the hotel industry.
Okay.
Beyond that, though, the composition will be up to, and whoever you appoint for that position is up to this board.
Is that, would that have a village board member on it too then? Is
Could.
that what we're looking?
I think it
But
could.
it's not required. But it doesn't say that in here, but. I didn't know if that was something we wanted or not.
Yeah, I'm looking at the way it's drafted. It certainly could include a trustee, and as I recall under the statute, there's no prohibition on that. So you could have two trustees. Potentially, you could have three. I'll double check if we're going to go that far. But I think that's fine. It's not necessarily a ton of money yet in the Village of Oregon, but I will tell you in Wauwatosa, they are sitting on a ton of money.
Yeah,
they don't know how to spend it.
We'll take some. I know how to spend it. Well, you did tonight. Anything else on that? So we have the motion, a second, to do the first reading approval of ordinance number 18-18. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item D, discussion possible action, People's United Methodist Church facility use request form. Recommend motion is to authorize the village president to sign that facility use request form. Need that motion, please?
Before you do that, sorry, I meant to talk before the meeting. Because, are you still an officer of the church?
No.
You're not?
No.
Oh, okay. Because last time you what?
I lost my job.
You lost your job, okay. Because you guys...
It's been a rough year.
Yeah, a rough year, yeah. So I talked to Matt because I know there's 4 of you that are church members, but the critical thing is that an officer can't sign the lease. I think last time you couldn't do that.
Right.
But, okay.
If you're a member of the church, you can vote on this.
Yeah.
If you're a trustee of the church, then you should abstain. Because this is a contract between the village and the church.
So you get kicked out of the church?
Don't give Jenna ideas.
Don't we have rules, Jerry.
So we need a motion.
Sorry, I mean interrupt.
I already made it.
Okay. Did we get a second? Okay. So we have the motion second to authorize village president to sign the facility use request form with Methodist Church. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thanks, man.
Item 6, approval of minutes from December 3rd, 2018.
I'll move.
A second.
Any additions or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 7, discussion and possible action regarding 2018 budget amendment number 4. Recommend a motion to approve 2018 budget amendment number 4. It's a note from the village administrator. This budget amendment pays the former motel property's 2018 property tax bill of $14,302 minus a few days the seller covered at the closing in January 2018. We attempted to close on the property by the end of 2017, but the seller was not able to meet the 12/31/70 deadline, which is the reason this was not budgeted for in 2018. So need that motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
No, we just are moving the money from one
Yeah.
fund to the other fund within the TID.
Yeah. Question or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you for that.
Yep. I should read that next part too, huh?
I just said it.
Okay, that's what I was thinking you did, but I want to be sure. So next we go to approval of vouchers.
I'll move.
I gotta read it first, Randy.
Oh, all right. Sorry. Trying to speed things up here.
Don't chase me out so fast.
It's almost your bedtime.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so we have vouchers tonight in general operating fund of $487,778.95 for approval. Thanks, Matt.
All right, now can I move?
You can.
All right, thank
I'll
you.
second.
Now you're in order. That's
All right.
good. Got the motion second. Are there questions?
Yes. This one I think will be for Mr. Rao. Fox and Sons sewer cleaning of wastewater treatment plant siphon,
Yes,
7,650.
yes.
What
Yeah.
is that?
That was, remember earlier when I said we had some capacity issues between our pump station and the wastewater treatment plant?
Okay.
And that when we had some backups,
Mhm.
we found out that the siphons are basically two pipes that are like a U shape that go under the creek and then into the wastewater treatment plant. We actually found that we were severely limited on our capacity on those, and they had never been cleaned in their 25 years, 30 years of operation.
So those pipes were plugged? Is that what you're basically saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And so.
The capacity was severely limited.
That's what I said, plugged.
I used a very good term in that. They weren't plugged completely, but, so
Yeah.
we had to do a little
Severely
bit of a-
limited.
Yeah.
That's what I
And-
heard.
And so
Yeah.
what we did, there's no access point to it, so we actually, Fox and Sons came in and provided a service to be able to expose the pipes, put a big trench box in, and then cut the pipes, and then we used our sewer jetter back to clean the pipes.
Okay.
And everything, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next question is probably for Mike. League of Wisconsin Municipalities Village Hall League dues, $35.25. Is that a whole year?
Yes, yep. That's for 19.
Is there value to that for the village?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there?
Yep, yep.
Can you
Again,
give me an example of what? that is?
Working on behalf of the dark store.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. That is, okay, very good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, we use their service. Claire is Matt Dragney's wife, and just today I called Matt about. I didn't realize that you were not an officer or a trustee of this church anymore, and so Matt called Claire to get an opinion about whether or not you should sign the agreement. So we use the legal services quite a bit.
And aren't they the ones who put on the new trustee 101
Yep.
thing that I went to, which was very helpful? I mean, we used their trainings.
They're our main lobbying
Yeah.
efforts in the
All right,
state
you
capitol.
just for $4,000, you'd like to make sure that there's some value.
We're getting our money's worth, I believe. Yep.
Okay, and then I noticed that we made the first payment to Baker Street for the library
Mhm.
campaign, fundraising campaign, so it's a good thing we approved that.
Yep. Well,
But that was for the feasibility study.
Pardon?
That was for the feasibility study, our payment to the library.
Not the fundraising.
Oh,
Not fundraising.
Okay.
just the feasibility
And Jerry, the
Glad
agreement.
I asked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The agreement's not between the village board and the group, it's between the library board. It's a library board money, not village board money.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
Not to
Those
be
are my
picky,
questions.
but-
You're okay, Jennifer, don't worry.
So, but we were sharing,
watching.
we were sharing in the cost of the study. Now that they moved on to the fundraising, as they explained, it's really that library's money now.
Very good.
I have a question,
Yeah, go ahead.
actually. On page 6 of the vouchers, there's the, just near the bottom, Timberland Landscaping. It looks like Village Hall salt. Don't we buy our salt for the year? Why do we have a?
No, this
how
is
does-
for salting of sidewalks and everything. We hired Timberland to do the sidewalks around the four municipal buildings, and so that's. their
That's like
cost.
more labor than
It's-
action.
It's labor and material and, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
You'll see those throughout the winter.
Okay.
Yep.
Other questions? So we have vouchers tonight in the amount of $487,778.95 for approval. Roll call, please.
Glish,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Follig,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Item 9 is community input. Anyone in the audience who would like to address the board at this time? You see none, we'll go to item 10, proclamations and announcements. Board comments, anyone? Item B, please note Village Hall will be closed on Monday, December 24th, Tuesday, December 25th, and Tuesday, January 1st. Then we go to staff comments.
Just upcoming meetings.
Meetings listed there. Any other staff over here? Any comments to make? Okay. They're all saying, let's get done and get out of here too. Item 11, communication and miscellaneous business. Discussion possible action, Director of Planning and Zoning Administrator position. Recommended motions. 1, approval of job description for Director of Planning and Zoning Administrator position. Item 2, authorize recruitment of Director of Planning and Zoning Administrator position. And item 3, approve screening committee members, Village President, Personnel, Public Safety, and Protection Committee Chair, Village Administrator, Director of Public Works, and Planner Mike Slavely from Vanderwall and Associates. So we need, those can all go as one, right?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll do it that way if you want.
Anybody willing to make all 3 of those in one shot?
To move to do all that?
Yeah, we can
I'll
move to do
do
all
that.
3 at
I'll
once.
move to do all 3.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jeannie. Okay. Any questions or comments from trustees and any general comments?
Actually, the
you'd
one
like
thing
to make,
I do
Mike,
want
or
to note is that if you could just look at the schedule, please, the timeline. Mike Slavny's really being nice about this and helping to serve on the screening committee. So I tried to find a date that he was more available, and so rather than having the first interviews at this point on Wednesday, we moved until Tuesday, February 5th. 7:30 to 3 o'clock. Yeah. And again, that could change depending, but that's what we're shooting for. So it'd be Tuesday, February 5th. We probably would have our first interview at 8 o'clock that morning. Yeah. The other date, he was, he could only do in the afternoon. I was concerned it'd be getting too late to interview like 4 or 5 or even 6 people, so. Does that work for Steve and Jeannie? Okay. Thank you.
And who's doing second round interviews? Same group or?
We'll have to figure that out.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if I make Mike. You could, if you want to put it on your calendar, please. I don't know if I'll make Mike or ask Mike to do that. I think we'll have to figure that out. And I think when we did the, when we interviewed for Jeff's position, we had the screening committee, but then I think it was just you and Jeannie that did the second round, I believe. I think.
Yeah,
I think that's right, yeah. So we'll figure that out.
He was
Yeah,
the
if you
only-
want to just pencil that in, please.
Okay. Jeff was the only candidate though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bad example. I should
That
not
hurts.
use. I should
That
not
really
be
hurts.
using Jeff as an example.
The minute you said that, I knew I was in trouble.
Okay, so any questions or comments on this set of items for the planner position? So all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item B, discussion possible action, resolution number 18-43, 2019 salary schedule, effective 12/30/18 for non-represented employees. The recommended motion is to adopt resolution number 18-43.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments here? We've been through all this.
Money's in the budget.
Yeah. So it's just approving where we've been. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item C, discussion and possible action on resolution number 18-42, the 2019 annual fee schedule.
So moved.
Recommend motion is to adopt that. So we got a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a few. First off, this is changing the whole ordinance, all of our village fee, not changing them, but like
We just
it
basically
involves
say.
them all.
Yep.
So it's going down to including like the park fees for the shelter, and I know that that's one of the things that that might change.
We do amendments to this throughout the year. For example, we'll come back and amend it for park improvements fees, for example.
Okay.
So this is we do this every December. It sets it for the following year, and then we come back and do amendments throughout the year if we have to.
Okay.
Yep.
That's that's the big one.
Yeah.
And so we can, modify, we could add new fees or
You
whatever.
can modify, you
if
can delete them,
yeah.
yep.
Okay,
With, what, you just
That's
do another
the big one.
resolution by the board.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, and yeah, with the other question, I can save it for another time. We're not deciding on anything on it tonight, so
Okay.
it's fine.
Any other questions or comments? So we have a motion second to adopt Resolution 1842, the 2019 annual fee schedule. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item D, discussion possible action, the 2019 Employee Assistance Program Agreement, and the motion is to, with Family Service, is to adopt that. Need a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any questions here? We've been with them for a long time, right?
Very good service.
They've done a really good job. I've been involved in some things with that. Been good. So are there questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item E, discussion possible action, recruiting for police secretary position. The recommended motion is to authorize that recruitment.
I'll move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, our recent hire for the part-time position is given her notice to us, and it's basically for medical disability reasons. So nothing that we could do about that. We did decide, well, we were fortunate that she decided that she would stick around hopefully long enough for us to fill the position. I hope that's the case. We'll see if that happens, but we are going to change the hours a little bit to hopefully draw a few more people who might be interested in that position. We originally had them go until 9 p.m. at night, but we discovered that nobody really comes after 6 o'clock to the PD anyway for that type of stuff. So we're going to change the hours a little bit to hopefully, like I said, draw some more interest.
Okay. Any questions, comments? We have motion second to authorize recruitment of the police secretary position. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item F, review of police department reports.
Same reports, formats as I've given in the past. Nothing new as far as trends. Still similar issues as far as domestics and OWIs. We are seeing a few more drug-related incidents. But other than that, I would say, we still have issues with thefts from autos and thefts from houses with garage doors being left open and that type of thing. But in comparison with the surrounding communities, I think we're a little bit lower than what they are. And I attribute that. We've kind of divided the village up into districts and had our officers kind of hit the areas a little bit harder and be a little more proactive. So hopefully that's having some impact on the reduction in crime with that. So.
Okay.
But I'm happy to answer any questions you have on the reports.
Any questions anyone has? Again, thanks for those reports. It's good for us to see those. It's good for the public that's online to look at them too. So
Yeah, you're welcome.
see what else is going on. Item G, review impact fees, connection fees, building permits, and investments.
Didn't we look at this before? I was confused as to why we're,
It's updated monthly.
oh, monthly okay.
Yeah.
I guess
If you look at the impact fees, now it's, the amounts are on there through the month of November.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we actually are having a really good year on single-family permits, which is good for future budgeting, net new construction.
Any questions on those? Okay, so we'll go to item H, discussion possible action on surplus meters. Recommended motion is to declare them as surplus property.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 12, report of committees. A, the Park Board, December 5, 2018. Trustee Peterson.
Okay, we had discussion and possible action regarding the Oregon Youth Baseball's proposal for enclosing the open area of the bathroom shelter on Brook Street in Kaiser Park. The Park Board motion, Miller moved, seconded by myself, to approve Oregon Youth Baseball's proposal for enclosing the open area of the bathroom shelter on Brook Street in Kaiser Park as presented, conditioned upon the following. The paint color of the building must be approved by village staff. master keys for accessibility to the building being assigned to all users and the village, and the addition of lights to the exterior of the building. Exterior? I thought we talked about interior.
I would assume it'd be exterior.
Okay, I just wanted to
It's
verify
exterior.
that was correct. So, and the note is that the village staff must approve the selected lighting. The motion carried 7-0.
Okay, the village president had to leave the room, so I'm going to take over for a little bit here. Got a motion. Would someone like to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, now we can open the discussion if there is some.
Do you want me to talk about that at all? There's
pretty straightforward.
pictures in there, but they had some issues with
the motion was pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. Well, the reason is because that cart that they store there had been vandalized recently or something. They just want to keep it more secure.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion 2.
Okay. This is discussion and possible action regarding potentially transferring Parks Shelters reservation system from the school district to the village. And the history of this is the school district agreed to be responsible for the village's Parks and Shelters reservation system in January 2013. With the anticipated completion of J.C. Park West's Phase 1 improvements in 2020, the village board will consider hiring a parks director to oversee the use of the renovated J.C. Park West area and other village parks and playing fields. So at the park board, I moved, seconded by Tim LeBrun, to approve the statement of thank you to the school district for handling the reservations system since January 2013 and request the district to continue handling the reservations system until the village has hired a parks director in 2020 or 2021. Motion carried 7-0.
So we need a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. I think I got one more.
You do.
All
Get you
right.
to the last page.
Yeah. All right. Discussion and possible action regarding use of Madison Community Foundation donation of $690.07 for the purchase of trees. So the park board motion, Miller moved, seconded by Knutson, to approve using Madison Community Foundation's donation of $690.07 to purchase trees for the village parks. The motion
Second.
carried 7-0.
Any questions or discussion? So we have that motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Amanda. Item 13, minutes not requiring action. Item A, Oregon Area Fire EMS District Commission from November 1, 2018. Minutes and information, and Cable TV Committee, October 11, 2018, and November 21, 2018. Information policy statements. Item 14, unfinished business. There's none before us. 15, there's no new business listed there tonight. Item 16, some future agenda items going our way. Item 17, a motion and second for adjournment, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're done. Thanks, folks.
Everybody have a good holiday,
Yeah.
if you want to.
In your box, too, Jerry.
Pardon?